Inside of today's video, we're going to be looking at 6 huge balance changes, a bunch of stuff to do with the update, including masteries, also a lot of map changes, and specifically the indestructible walls, which of course is going to be absolutely huge for the meta. I'll go into more detail into that in the near future. So now we're going into the balance changes, and so the first one is going to be with Sandy. So it's only been 2 buffs with these balance changes, so a little bit surprising, but because of indestructible walls, you know, there's going to be a lot of indirect buffs to Brawlers. Anyway, Sandy is receiving a damage buff finally. So since Sandy received a couple of nerfs to the amount of hits it took to get his super, and also I think it was a couple or at least 1 damage nerf, it literally was one of the worst brawlers in the game easily. So the damage has gone up from 1290 to 1350, so a 60 damage buff. I think this is really going to help him out in 1v1s, and not only that, I think a brawler like Sandy, especially with indestructible walls, I think it's going to be even better in the meta. The main problem with Sandy is that it just used to be so easy to counter him, just being able to break open the walls. Of course, Sandy has no range, so it's just really easy to counter him. Now, on certain maps, it's going to be really hard to deal with a good Sandy. So second and last on the buff list, we have Byron. So as you guys probably know, for ages, Byron has just been such a terrible brawler within the meta. I don't remember the last time I picked Byron in Power League, to be honest, and whenever I looked at the stats on Brawlify or any other website like that, you know, the win rates were just terrible with Byron, literally at the bottom, and use rates were just at the bottom as well. So Byron has received a little bit of a buff, so his reload speed has changed. So the way they've done this is before the nerf, they've actually put it in between, if you get what I mean. So his reload speed has gone from 1600 milliseconds to 1450. So I presume it used to be 1300 milliseconds. You know, it's pretty hard to really show you the true difference, but its reload speed's getting above, which is a huge change because we know the reload speed nerf literally killed Byron. So somewhere in between should be pretty nice. I expect Byron to be a lot stronger within the meta. I don't think he's going to be like a top 10 brawler, but he's definitely going to be usable. He's going to be pretty good on those passive maps. Still, I feel like brawlers might overwhelm him a little bit, but just because of how good he is in terms of synergy and just his mechanics overall, I think he's definitely going to be pretty strong with the new update. Now moving on to the nerfs events. So the first one is going to be with Gray. So Gray within the last meta was clearly for me the best brawler within the game. He was just super versatile. His super was so strong, not only for him but his teammates as well. So gladly he's receiving a nerf, and to exactly the way I wanted it. So teammates can't instantly teleport with Gray, which is a huge nerf. It's definitely going to impact him quite a fair bit, but the main reason why they've done it is of course because of the bow, Jackie, Gray, cheesy strategy. It's just way too cheesy, guys. You literally needed 0 brain cells to play it. You could instantly just teleport a Jackie into everyone's faces, and there wasn't really too much counterplay to it. So gladly, well, thankfully they have nerfed him. So now, as you guys probably seen by the gameplay, you can't instantly teleport, which again is really good, but Gray can still teleport instantly onto an opponent. So I definitely feel like this is the way that Gray was supposed to be introduced into the game. The next up on the nerf list, we have Sam. So Sam has been absolutely wrecking everyone within this meta, especially towards the latter stages of draft. A lot of times he was just unbeatable on the lane. He's so quick with his super, being able to heal up as well. It was just super oppressive within this meta. So he's receiving a small nerf, but I think it might be pretty good in terms of a lot of consistent damage used to come in a form of his super. So his super damage has been nerfed from 2100 to 1800, so only a 300 damage nerf. But straight away I noticed a big interaction change, which would definitely help out a lot of his squishier brawlers. So normally, no matter what, even if he had the shield gear on, Sam could literally throw 2 supers at you and kill you instantly if he was like a B, for example, or a Piper or a Brock, you know, within that threshold. And now, after the nerf, when you do have that shield gear, you will no longer be 2-shotted by a Sam super. So that is a pretty nice, just by the math, you guys can work that out. Anyway, so that was just one quick interaction change about Sam, but I think it's definitely gonna still be pretty strong within the meta. And lastly, for the nerf list, we have Otis. So we've got a rework after this one, but Otis has received a small HP nerf. So he used to have 5100 HP. Now he has 4,800. So we all know Otis was such an insanely versatile brawler within the meta. Pretty much wherever in the draft, no matter the map, game mode, scenario, Otis was just such a strong pick. He can deal with tanks, he can deal with range, he can deal with everything. So they haven't gone down the route of nerfing his damage. The main reason being is because maybe, you know, in the past when Otis used to deal a lot less damage, you know, he was terrible. So they've gone down nerfing the HP route. So in those 1v1 interactions, maybe people can take him down a little bit quicker. So this is definitely a welcome nerf. I still feel like Otis is going to be near the top of the meta. Lastly, for the reworks, then we have Bow's Super Totem. So for the longest time, Bow's Gadget used to be really cheesy, especially on knockout, and it's just so many cheesy strategies, so they've actually reworked it completely. So what it does, it no longer passively charges super, but it increases the super charge inside of a totem for you and your teammates by 50%, and they've also increased the gadget area by 100%. So if you guys are wondering just one off the top of his head, Bow normally takes 9 shots to get his super. Inside of his totem, it takes 6 shots. So I actually think this is a better change, especially outside of knockout. I feel like this gadget's actually going to be pretty strong. Honestly, Bow could have got a huge buff with this rework. So finally, we have some changes to the map pool. So we're going through every single game mode, including Showdown, to show you guys why it's changed, and especially with the new walls as well. So the maps that have been disabled are Deep Diner and Undermine, and there's been 2 new maps added, which are 4 Doors and a Solid Center. So we'll go through every single one so you guys can quickly see why the indestructible walls are actually added. Those are going to be the walls that have an X inside of them. So I will highlight a few of them just to show you guys, but just quickly going through them just so you can see which ones have been added. It's pretty interesting. A lot of really interesting ones, especially on Minecraft Madness. Double swoosh, the mid walls, pretty interesting. I don't think any on a Q angle. 4 Doors as well. I don't think there are actually any on this one. And then Solid Center, quite a few within the middle. We have the Showdown maps. So Dark Passage and Cavern Churn have been disabled. And then they've added back Rock Wall Brawl, and then 2 new Showdown maps as well. So there's only 1 map out of all the Showdown ones which have the brand new walls in. This is a brand new Showdown map, and then also Hard Limits, which I think is pretty much all indestructible walls. So we have Heist. So there's been 2 maps that have been disabled, which are Tornado Ring and Snaked Assault, and then there's been 3 maps added. So Cover Crowd is a map which was previously in the game. I believe it looks a bit like a base race map. And then Offset Heist, which is a brand new one, and then Center Control, which has a lot of indestructible walls on. There's actually been quite a few huge changes to these Heist maps. So Kaboom Canyon, you know, some of those walls, especially with it in the backside, can be pretty influential to especially getting pressure on a high safe zone. This is a huge change. There's left or the right hand side for where you spawn, and then the left side as well. You know, some big changes. You know, normally use like a Brock or a Colt to open up those walls. Hot Potato, especially down those lanes, again, some massive changes. Going to definitely impact the meta there. Bridge Too Far as well, only one of the walls indestructible. We'll have to see how that one plays out for sure. Pit Stop. Okay, the center ones as well. That's the first time I've seen the center walls. It's going to be massive, especially considering a lot of people use Bull. You can't destroy those walls with a bull, so a little bit interesting. A lot of changes to the heist meta. Next we have bounties. So 2 maps have been disabled, which are XL and Hideout, and then it's 3 new maps. So the first one is Crossroads. A little bit interesting with this one, especially with quite a few indestructible walls. Nowhere to Hide, which is another brand new one as well, I believe, and it actually looks pretty decent, especially with a lot of grass in the backside. And then Iron Standoff, again, a lot of indestructible walls. So it seems like one of the new maps at least has quite a few indestructible walls per game mode. And then Temple Ruins, quite a few indestructible walls, especially in the middle. Those are some really influential walls a lot of the time. Shooting Star as well. This is massive because throwers in the middle, you know, they're literally indestructible. That is such an insane change for Shooting Star. Canal Grande, again, looks like tanks are going to have a field day. Throwers as well. Wow, this meta is going to be shaping up quite a fair bit. Layer Cake as well. I mean, if tanks and throwers, like, somehow not meta, I don't know, I'll just retire from this game because it looks pretty plain and simple that throws and tanks have got to dominate everyone. Now moving on to Brawl, 2 maps have been disabled with Center Stage and Sunny Sucker. So 2 maps I didn't really like myself. And then 3 maps have been added. Field Gold has returned, and with indestructible walls, which is very interesting. And then 2 new maps, which are Circle Motion with no indestructible walls. It is brand new. And then Iron Corridor, a lot of indestructible walls right here. So we'll go through the Brawl maps right here. So Backyard Bowl, just 1 set of walls per the kind of front line have indestructible walls, which is very interesting. I can see a lot of passive gameplay on those maps. On that map in particular, sorry. Pinhole Punt, a lot of indestructible walls right there. Sneaky Field, I think there's 0 inside of that map, so very interesting right there. Super Beach, only the middle walls, which I don't really think of that influential. Normally it's the lanes that are broken on side of that map. Beach Ball, only the walls inside of a goal, so a little bit of an interesting take for kind of throwing a lot of spanners into the works in terms of the meta. Next up we have Hot Zone. So the two maps that have been disabled are Quarter Pounder and Controller Chaos. The new maps, well, this one has returned, which I don't really like. I don't know how to pronounce the name for it, but it wasn't really best last time around. Rush Hour looks a little bit sketched. I don't know how to feel about this one. And then Iron Cover, a lot of indestructible walls inside of this one. Could be pretty interesting. So Parallel Plays has indestructible walls with inver zones, which again is pretty interesting because a lot of the time, especially in the defensive side, you can always get away with hanging around those walls, but it could be really annoying, especially say for example if the enemy gets on your left hand zone. It can be pretty annoying to try and pinch them out of it. Split only has a small indestructible walls inside of the middle. A Ring of Fire has 0 indestructible walls. I just tested that one out. Dueling Beetles, actually it's quite a few walls indestructible right there. Definitely could shake up the meta a fair bit. And then Open Zone, indestructible walls in the middle. This could be pretty interesting. Now moving on to the final game mode, I'll go through the maps quickly with the other two, but in terms of what everyone wants to see in terms of like Power League and whatever else, we have knockouts. So two maps that have been disabled, Riverside and New Perspective, so I'm glad those two have gone. And then Flowing Springs I believe has returned, so a little bit of a weird one. And then we have Healthy Middle Ground, which again looks a little bit weird, especially with the teleports, and Step by Step, a lot of indestructible walls again. So in terms of Gold Arm Gulch, I believe there's no indestructible walls inside of that one. Bell's Rock, we have a couple which definitely could be really strong for the throwers on knockout. And then Flaring Phoenix, those two walls in the middle, pretty interesting. And then we have X Mox Spot, yeah, indestructible walls in the middle for that one. And Out in the Open, just a few indestructible walls, so definitely you can still use wall breakers in your composition and you still might be okay. So quickly going through the Basket Brawl maps and also the Duels one just to finish off the video then. So quite a few indestructible walls on this. I'm pretty excited to try it out. Let's see for Duels, first time seeing it, especially within friendly rooms. Okay, quite a few indestructible walls, which could be very toxic. A lot of water inside of that one. I don't know how to feel about that one. And then this one as well. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot of changes. I haven't really looked at masteries because I know a lot of other YouTubers are going to be covering that. But I'll be, of course, when the update drops, be giving you guys as many tips as possible to get masteries on every single brawler as quickly as possible. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.